First one, I'm given this equation, and I want to solve for m in one section and solve for v in the other. So I'm going to rewrite my formula, and it wants me to get the letter m. Let me use my pen. It wants me to get m alone. Do you see any plus or minus signs? Nope, I don't have to add or subtract, it's all gone. I ask now, am I going to multiply or divide? I'm going to multiply by 2. Does anybody know why I multiply by 2? Where I'm pulling it from?
The 1/2.
The 1/2. I want to get rid of this 2 on the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2 and it will cross off, which will leave me 1mv over 2, v squared, and the k will also be multiplied by 2. So multiply by 2, the fraction goes away. So I was getting rid of the fraction. My next step, I want to get the m alone. V squared is attached to the m through multiplication. I will divide by the v squared, that whole chunk. I'm just going to divide by it, which gives me 2k over v squared equals the letter m.
When you typed in the 2 squared on the computer, you just do the little like up.
The shift caret, yeah, it's like a little up arrow, and it makes it go up. Yep. This little 2 is up in the power. This 2 is a big 2 in front of the k. And make sure when you type it in, do you see how that k is capital?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's capital on your assignment. Mine kind of looks like it's not capital anymore. It's a big capital K. What if I had solved it for the v instead? If I wanted the v alone, I would have to first get rid of the fraction, multiply by 2. Can't see that. When I multiply by 2, I get a 2k equals, the half is gone, mv squared. I'm going to divide by the m this time.
Hey, I think we mentioned this more than once. Observational studies cannot be cause and effect. You can do association, but no cause.
Who remembers how to get rid of the power? This one's kind of weird. Power, get rid of the power of 2. Yes, square root. We square root it. Shh. You can talk after notes. I square root it, which gets rid of my power, and I would be left with, I ran out of room. 2k over m equals v. What if this little power, what if that power had been a number 3? What if it had a 3 in the power? What would be different about your root right here for the final answer?
You'd have a 3.
You'd put a little tiny 3, put a little tiny 3 on the root. So if you really wanted to, put a 2 on it, because it was square root. You could type a little 2 in there if you wanted to. But 2s you don't have to. Let's try question B. I'm given the equation P equals W divided by T. And I want the letter, switch up the color. I want the letter T by itself. My first step is I will multiply by T because I don't want T in the bottom. When I multiply by T, it'll cross off on this side and leave W. When I multiply P by T on the left.
Me on the right. Oh, T on the right.
T is almost alone. I now need to get T by itself by dividing by the P. Looks like they switched places. T's alone. Now it's asking me to solve for the W. I don't want this fraction, so I'm going to first multiply by T. Do I need to solve anymore? Nope, that is done. The W is alone. Your goal is just to manipulate the equation until your variable is alone.
Easy.
Easy? Perfect. Okay, I have V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. There are no plus or minus signs. I want to get h alone. My first step is I want to get rid of the 1/3. What will I multiply by?
3.
Multiply by 3. Multiplying by 3 will get rid of the 1/3. So I'll have a 3 times v equals the 1/3 will cancel out when I multiply it by 3. Pi r squared h. I'm still trying to get h by itself. So I will now look, they're attached through multiplication. I will divide by the pi and the r and the squared. That will cross those off. And h is alone. H doesn't have a power. It's complete. Okay. This one I'm solving for r. First step, I want to get rid of the fraction. Multiply by 3. Whoops, the 1/3 goes away. I now want the r alone. So I will divide by the pi and the h. Why can I not get rid of the power of 2 in this step by dividing?
It's like the R.
It's hooked on the r. It's attached to the r. I can't move it without the r. So I'm going to move the pi and h. My last step to get the r by itself is to remove that power. So I will root it, or square root it. Whatever number is on the power, that will go on the root.
So for the 2, you don't have to put it, or do you have to put
Nope. You don't have to.
it? For the 3, you have to
For
put
the 3, you have to put it on this little root so you know that it'll cross it off.
Okay.
You don't need to put the 2 on the root. If it's any other number for the power, you have to put it on the root to tell what one it is. What happens if you're doing these on your assignment and it marks it wrong? What could you do? Ask me. Ask me to come over and check your work. We'll look through it and see where the error is. For our next material, we are going over perimeter again. I'm going to use the graphing method. If you want to do it in your head or with a calculator, you may. I have the point 1, 3, 4 up 7, 7 up 7, and 4 up 3. This creates a parallelogram. I know the top is 1, 2, 3. The bottom is also 3. But I can't count a diagonal. I can't count and say that's 4. I need to count the slope, which would be 3, 4. 3 squared plus 4 squared would be 9 plus 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. 25 square rooted. That simplified. What will it simplify to?
5.
Good job. 5 is right. 5. What if I count this side? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. What do you notice with the parallelogram? It's the exact same. So do I need to go through and do this all over again if I know that that's 3 and that's 4 and I've done the work? I don't need to do it again. I can state that because these have the same slopes, this will also be the length of 5. What if this square root had not simplified? Is that okay? It's okay if you did not simplify it. Perimeter. I would do 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5 is 16. Now, if I typed this into my calculator, because I didn't know that it simplified, would I get the same thing?
Yeah.
You would get the exact same thing. You wouldn't make a mistake. The calculator would simplify this to a 5 for you and give you a 16 still. So you can enter it either way. It would not mark it wrong. You would still get 16. If you would like these graphs, these boxes, I have graph paper in the back, and they have 8 graphs. So you can use them on your assignment if you need them. Okay, turn the page. I'm going to compute perimeter again. I have a point at -1, 0. I have a point at 2, down 7. And a point at 8, up 6. Oops, that's not very straight. When I compute the sides, I guess they have letters. A, this was B, and this was C. All right, A to B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. What is 7 squared plus 3 squared? 21 plus 9. Wait, not 21. That's wrong. 49. 49 plus 9. 49 plus 9 is 58. And I square root it. That is my length for A to B. B to C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What is 6 squared plus 13 squared?
Wouldn't the 7 for A to B be negative?
Yes, but what happens when you square a negative?
It's more.
-7 times -7 makes positive.
Oh.
49.
Okay.
Yep, good question. So with the slopes, this would be -7 over 3. But because I'm plugging it in for distance, distance will be positive. So you don't have to worry about signs if it's easier. Good question. Was anybody else wondering that? Yeah, that was a good question. All right, 6 squared plus 13 squared. That'll be hard to do. 205. And then I place a square root. And that was B to C. A to C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is 9 squared plus 6 squared? 81,
Plus
36. 1 and 6 make 7. 8 and 3, 8. 17. Yep. Then I square root it. For the perimeter, I would do the square root of 58 plus the square root of 205 plus the square root of 117. Square root of 58. I click to the side. I don't want the root to go over my plus sign. And we get 32.750 for the perimeter. Does that help anybody out? You learned that on Monday. Good. Our last section, we are going over writing linear equations in standard form. When I first write my equation, I'm going to write it in point slope form. So it would be y equals, I'm going to see if you recognize this, negative 4 over 9 x plus 6 minus 5. What is the negative 4 over 9? That is my slope. Why did I put a plus 6 after the x?
It's a negative.
The negative 6 becomes a positive when placed in the parentheses with the x. And where did the negative 5 come from? The Mary and the y. It does not change signs. Now, if I want to manipulate the form of this equation, I first want to get rid of parentheses. That means I will distribute, and you may want to use a calculator when you have a fraction. You do not have to use a calculator, but some of you might want to. When I distribute, I get y equals negative 4 over 9 x, because it'll just stick onto the x. Then I'm going to multiply negative 4 over 9 multiplied by a positive 6. I don't want to write a huge decimal out, so I'm going to write it as a fraction. Is that okay? Negative 8 over 3. And then I have a minus 5 hanging out right here. And this is a 3. How can I place these two together? I'm going to combine those. I'm going to do it on my calculator because most of you don't love fractions. Negative 8 over 3 minus a 5. I have a weird decimal again. What do I do to the decimal?
Negative fraction.
Negative fraction. All right, the form we have it in right now, this is slope intercept form. I'm going to pull my form over to here. Which number is the biggest number on the denominator?
9.
Multiply by biggest denominator. Okay. When I multiply by 9, that will give me a 9y equals, the 9 would cross off and make a negative 4x. When I multiply this by 9, it's more difficult to do. So I'm going to calculate what happens when I multiply it by 9.
It's confusing.
I know this is the meanest one. I don't know why I put the meanest one first, but negative 23 over 3 times it by 9, and it's a negative 69. Last step, I move the 4x over in front. Negative becomes a positive 4x plus 9y is negative 69. So I'm going to talk through this one more time. The reason this one ends up being difficult is because of all the fractions. When we do the next ones, they won't seem so bad. First, we multiplied in. Was that okay distributing into the parentheses? With the fraction, we used our calculator to help us find what the fraction times 6 is. Then we used our calculator again and combined the constant values, which gave us negative 223 over 3. This is not in the form. It's requesting you to write it in. It's requesting you to write it as ax plus by equals c. Because it is not in that form yet, I pulled it over. Does ax plus by equals c have any fractions in it? There are no fractions in this. So my goal in the pink, I wanted to get rid of the fractions by multiplying by the biggest denominator. That was the goal, to get rid of the fractions. I have to multiply everything by 9. Y times 9 is 9y. Negative 4 over 9 times 9 is nice because the 9 goes away and leaves you just with the negative 4. This one's more difficult because I can't just cross off the 3. So I multiplied it by 9 on my calculator and it gave me negative 69. It's still not in this form. I'll just have to come help you then. It's still not in this form yet. So when I move the 4x over to the other side, I have to add it, which is why it is a positive 4x. A positive 9y equals a negative 69. Let's try it without fractions.
You're not.
Point slope form. Y equals, what is the slope?
2.
2. And then we'll have x, opposite of minus 1 is plus 1, and a plus 4 was on the outside. I then distribute 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 1 is 2. The 4 is not multiplied. 4 is just hanging out on the end, is not going to be affected. I then combined the 2 plus 4. What is 2 plus 4?
3. Oh wait, that's
6. And I forgot to write my y equals on there. This is slope, intercept form. I'm going to move it over. Do I have any fractions to get rid of? No, there's no fractions on this one. I don't have to get rid of the denominator. So I'm just going to take this 2x, and I'm going to move it over in front of the y. This is a positive y. This is a positive 6. What will the 2x become when I switch it to the left side? It was a positive. It will now be a negative 2x. Bless you. What if they give you 2 points and you don't know your slope? You can find your slope. Y minus y over x minus x. Negative 15 over 6. Negative 3 over 2, and I place the minus signs. That gives me a negative 12 on top and a 4 on the bottom. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. Y equals negative 3 parenthesis. Which point do you want to use? It does not matter. You can pick. Do you want to just use?
6.
Let's use the 6 so that you know where because this one has a negative 3 as well. So we might get confused where. Let's do this one. So we'll do x minus 6 and a minus 15 on the end. When I distribute, negative 3x plus negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. Minus 15 stays the same outside. $18 minus 15 is 3. This is slope intercept form. I don't have any fractions to worry about. So I now will take my minus 3x and place it in front of the y. That will become a positive 3x plus the positive y, which equals the positive 3 on the right. Is the pattern getting a little easier? Some of you will be able to do this in your head. You'll get faster at it. Last question, we have 2 points again. I need to find the slope. Y minus y over x minus x. That would be a 6 over 4 and a 14 over 8. Then I place the minus signs. That would be, let's see, 14, 13, negative 8 over 4 minus 8 is negative 4. The double negatives will cancel out. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Y equals 2, parenthesis, x minus 4 with a plus 6 on the end. I then distribute 2x minus 8 when I combine the minus 8 and the plus 6, that's a minus 2. I then move the x over with the y, and I'm going to change the sign to a negative 2x. This is a positive y equals a negative 2. On your assignment, it will say that it needs to be in standard form. If it is not in standard form, then it will be marked wrong.